My name's Ian Malcolm and I'm here today to talk to you about static wood machines. I'm going to talk about this particular machine, which is a bench saw. Some people call it a circular bench saw. Now, the most important thing for this is that the machine at the moment is locked down. It means it can't possibly be turned on, and I'm going to explain a little bit more of that later, but just for the purposes of the demonstration. Now, when I come to this machine, the first thing I'm going to do is go through the safe operating procedure, and I'm going to have a look at the pre-safety checks. I'm going to check that as I'm looking at the machine that it looks like it's in good order. You know, it's clean, there's nothing on the floor, there's no dust, the surface of the bench is nice and smooth, and everything looks good. The guards look good, the dust extractor looks good, everything is pretty right with this machine. I'm never going to use this machine unless I've been trained. That is absolute paramount. And if I'm using, say if I was to go to another school and use a similar machine, I'd ask. I'd make sure that I understood this particular one before I used it. Okay, this one, I'm very familiar with it. I use it all the time, quite comfortable. I'm going to have a look, as I said, look for any faults, and if I find a fault, I've got to follow the correct procedure. First, I would lock it out to prevent anyone else using that machine, and I'm also going to put a tag on it. And I'm going to report it to the wood machinist, would be my first one, and then I would report it to the head of the department that that machine is out of operation. Once I've locked that machine out, no one else can use that machine until I've removed the tag. That's a really important thing. Okay, so next part, we're going to have a look at the switches down here and make sure we understand what happens with those. All machines get fitted with an emergency stop, the red button at the bottom, and it's designed that you can just kick it or throw something at it in an emergency, whatever it takes to be able to turn that machine off. I have to understand how to turn it on, and this one is just a straight on-off button, green to go, red to stop, and below it is the isolation switch. Isolation switch, which can be fitted with a padlock. I can turn it to off, pull the little flaps back, stick the padlock on, and that machine cannot be used then. And it's perfectly safe for me to have a look at the blade, change, do anything of those sort of operations. Before I go to use it, once I've established that everything's set up the way that I want, I have to make sure that my guard, I can raise it and lower it according to the thickness of the timber. I need to keep it, less than 13 mils above the height of the top of the timber so that everything is constrained in there. Okay. Before I go to use this machine, I have to also make sure that I've got the suitable PPE. You can see that, I've got boots on, I've got workwear on, I don't have any loose fitting clothes, my hair is not too long that it's going to get caught into the machine. Not a problem I have much anymore. And I've got a correct Australian standard approved pair of safety glasses that I can use, and I've also got Australian standard earmuffs. Most of the time I don't use the earmuffs, I use the earplug types. I just find that more comfortable if I'm going to use the machine for an extended period of time. Also, I make sure that I've got these on hand, which are the push sticks. These have to be a minimum of 400 mils long for this type so that my hand never goes anywhere near that blade. These are essential to have next to that machine, ready for you to use. Okay, so in the safe operating of this machine, which it's at the moment still locked out, I never ever freehand, which means that I wouldn't have the guard away and then try and put the piece of timber through the saw and guess that it's going to straight. If that was the case, it gets jammed, flies back out at you. Using this particular machine, I've got to make sure that My throat piece is in reasonable order. This one's a little bit worn, but still functioning properly. I've had a look at the blade. The blade's all good, and the riving knife is in place. Most important that we have one of those and that it is working properly. The guard is in good order, and I have to set the guard according to the particular height of the timber. Have a look at the sliding fence. Okay, to use that, I take this one, put it out of the way, make sure this one operates freely within the groove that's there, and it allows me then put my piece of timber on here and then feed it into the saw like so. Very carefully. Same common sense rules apply. Make sure that you're holding it firmly, it's flat on the bench, and into the saw it can go. When I'm going to use this saw, I'm going to make sure that I never do this part. I'm never going to have it higher at the front where the blade will pull it down, get my fingers caught, it'll jam. That's an absolute no. I make sure that I'm holding the timber firmly, if anything, a little bit up at the back's fine, and I'm holding it in a way that it's got a clear path backwards. You know, if something happens and that it comes flying out, it's going to go past me. I keep one foot in front of the other. I keep my hand in a way that it would allow it to come back if it did, and then gently push that timber into the saw. I'm ready to start to use the saw. The saw's clean, everything's in place. I've done the pre-safety check. I'm trained to use it. I've unlocked it. Dust extractor's turned on. And I start the saw. I make sure that it gets to its full speed before I start to use the saw. Then I get my position so I'm nice and comfortable. The guard is in the right spot. It's got a clear path out. And I feed my timber in, get my push stick and push it through the blade. And turn the saw off. I never leave the saw running. I always make sure that it is turned off and completely stopped.